First off, thank you guys so much for joining. My name is Drace Ryder, and I am the Vice President of the Boys and Girls Club here in Colorado Springs. I want to thank all of you guys for taking the time to participate and be a part of a bigger conversation in hopes to make some change in our community. I'd like to say thank you to USAA for their commitment to advancing racial equity and awarding us a grant that has allowed us to create the Conversations That Count initiative to offer our club members and the community. So before we get further started, I'm actually very honored to introduce Natasha Sansoni, who is the enterprise event planner of our local USAA, and she's going to share a bit more about USAA's commitment and work. So Natasha, go ahead.
Thank you so much. We are so honored to be part of the Boys and Girls Club, the partnership. I've worked with Drace this past year on all these initiatives, and it's been so enlightening to see all of the hard work that's being done in our community. As you know, or you may know, USA is in Colorado Springs. We have lots of locations throughout the United States. But USA's corporate responsibility purpose is really to lead and inspire actions that improve the lives of military and, of course, our local communities in the areas that we have buildings within the US. In 2020, our new CEO, Wayne Peacock, announced our commitment to DE&I initiatives. And this included a 3-year, $50 million philanthropic commitment to advancing diversity, equity, and inclusion among minority communities and individuals. And what we did, of course, with Colorado Springs, I was part of that team. I always say I'm so blessed to be part of this team here at USAA because we get to work with these leaders in the community that are doing such great work. So with that, one of the grants that was awarded was to the Boys and Girls Club. And that is fantastic because we get to be part of this initiative and we get to try to move the needle and work together. So just blessed and honored to partner with Boys and Girls Club. I hope we all learn a lot tonight, and just thank you all so much for being here.
Thank you so much, Natasha. We appreciate USA's support. Now I'd like to introduce a couple more people. It's my privilege to introduce Dr. Regina Lewis. She's well known as a consulting partner, international speaker, virtual moderator, and CEO of Regina Speaking LLC. Her proven specialty is leadership, professional excellence, cultural inclusion, entrepreneurship, executive coaching, strategic development, and executive public speaking coaching. With no further ado, I'd like to go ahead and give the floor to Regina Lewis.
Thank you so much, Drace. It's such a pleasure to be here once again. I've been working with the Boys and Girls Club on this initiative since January, and this has been really exciting to really have conversations that count. And that's exactly what it is. And so we had started out with seed training, which is cultural excellence ideas and discussions, and then transitions just naturally and organically right into these conversations. There's one per month, and it's going to go all the way through to December with some competition, some opportunities for you to take advantage of some amazing prizes as you also learn and are able to apply what you're learning. Our goal is to make sure that what we provide for you is something that can transcend not just to the parents, but to the children, the scholars. And what we would like to see is even more of our youth on these particular sessions. So we invite you to invite your young scholars, your young leaders to these programs. They're non-threatening, they're very inviting, they're deep in conversation and very interactive. And it's something that we all can take advantage of and learn. So without further ado, I am going to turn it over to Dr. Rhonda Williams, who is going to be our presenter for this evening.
I suppose that means I need to unmute myself. So thank you, and hello to all of you. Thank you for allowing me to be part of this process. Our presentation today is a discussion and its activities. Okay, and our agenda today is about discussions of stereotypes and social identities. And I want us all to think about what that is. And we'll talk about some implications of what social identities mean and how they impact us. And then looking at how that social identity and social stereotypes impact our ideas of who we are. And then I've got 2 activities that we're going to participate in, I hope, because all of you want to join in, right? So I want you to look at this picture, and I want you to tell me what you immediately think. And you can either put it in the chat or say it out loud. What are your assumptions and thoughts? What do you see? What do you assume? And so if you can put that in the chats, or even unmute yourself and say, and I'm really not looking for any compliments. You don't have to make me feel good about this. It's just, what are your assumptions that you're making? And maybe even write down a few things that you're thinking. And I'm going to depend on Shanna to tell me if there's anything in the chat.
So far, we have professional, woman, well off, and sensitive.
Hopefully all of those are true. I don't know about the well off part, but maybe. But yeah, as you look at who I am and you make assumptions about who I am, because all of us do that, right? With first impressions, you might want to know that I've been married twice, and my second partner I've been married to for 32 years. I've been in education for 45 years. So that tells you a little bit about age. I used to do TV commercials. I've lost a child. I've had my son deployed 3 times, and he is married to a woman from Indonesia. And there's a lot of education involved in my journey. So looking at that, were those assumptions that you would make about me based on my appearance? Anybody comment on chat?
I see some people shake their heads.
Okay. So those are assumptions that we make, and that's kind of typical of what we all do. All humans engage in first impressions. And that's really important to think about. Sometimes first impressions really lead us to making some stereotype thinking. And when those narrow perspectives of the first impressions are involved, and stereotype becomes the basis for decision making on who we engage with and the conversations we choose to have with people or friendships that we have with people, then it can become problematic because we start looking at things from our perspective of stereotype as opposed to maybe possibilities. So when we're looking at this piece, here's some definitions of stereotypes. I really like the perception that it's a rigid, preconceived conception that we have of people, that we hold about all people who are a member of this particular group. And I want you to think about yourself in those terms too. How are you stereotyped? So it can be impervious to I put log, but it's logic or experience. Like how does logic factor into this? And I do think that many times that perception creates a lens, shall I say, for how we see that person as opposed to all the other things that that person is. And sometimes those lenses that people use on us do not fit. So let's look at what social identity is and stereotype. So I want you to think about and write down, if you can, while you're doing this, write 3 of your social identities that you have. And when I say social identities, I'm going to give you some examples of my my social identities. I'm an aging woman. I'm heterosexual. I'm spiritual. I'm blonde. I'm white. I'm an extrovert. I'm an ally. All of those are social identities that are part of who define me. So give yourself about 30 seconds to write down some of your own social identities.
We have one question in the chat right now. Please contrast stereotype versus heuristics.
Versus what?
Heuristics?
Well, stereotypes are those preconceived determinations that are based in social information that's given to them. Does that help clarify?
We'll take it for now and keep moving on. Thank you, Rhonda.
So, so now as you think about those, I want you to think about how those, so many times our identities are stereotyped. And the ones that I've named, I can tell you many stereotypes that fit into those that don't really fit for who I am as a person. And for instance, my identity as a blonde has been stereotyped as I must be dumb because most blondes are dumb, right? That's the stereotype. So I want you to write down as you're thinking through this information on the stereotypes or the social identities that you have. How have they been stereotyped? And as you're doing that, I'm going to move on to the next statement because we're going to do an activity in a second identifying some of those stereotypes. So with that, there is an application of stereotype threat. That means that sometimes that stereotype or those identities don't allow us to blossom, and they kind of put us in a box that threaten how we can be and who we want to become. A stereotype threat for me and for many women is that women aren't good at math. And I will tell you that I can really identify with that stereotype threat because the minute math comes up, whether it's a game I play or some kind of event that I'm involved in and math is included, I really get, my heart starts beating faster, I start sweating, I get really nervous. That's stereotype threat. And we know that anything that we do with stereotype threat, we know that anything that we do that fits into that stereotype confirms that we deserve that stereotype, if that makes sense to you. And this threat can cause enough of a distraction that it interferes with all the things we try to do. It interferes with our performance. It interferes in ways that we don't expect it to. It can interfere with our health, with our athletic functioning, with how we engage in the work or school environment. And it also impacts our stress reactions. And because we're so fearful of proving that stereotype is right. See, you really are bad at math. So I would like for you then in the next activity to think about how those stereotypes impact you. And because we're going to go through this pretty quickly, I want you to challenge your stereotype and how you impact that and think, no, that's not who I am. I'm different than that. So we're going to use the phrase I am and whatever your social identity, but I am not. And that's the challenge to your stereotype. So I will give you my example, and then I'd like for a few of you to share yours, either taking off, unmuting yourself and saying it out loud, or putting it in the chat. But my example would be, I am an aging woman, but I am not feeble or incapable. As you think of yours, I would really like to hear what you have to say about I am, but how do you challenge that stereotype? Anyone want to share? I'd like about 3 of you at least to say what your thoughts are. I am, but I am not.
I can do one. So I am passionate about fighting for marginalized people and communities, but I am not an angry Black woman.
Nice, thank you. Somebody else, please.
I can share. I
Please.
am a businesswoman, but I am not mean or ugly.
Thank you.
I have one. I am a professor, but I don't know everything.
I know, I've been accused of that too, Regina. Thayer, Milani? Any
Well,
thoughts?
we were just discussing it, and I said, we are well off, but we're not heartless. How's that?
That works. Absolutely. I mean, it's that
Regina.
challenging. It's that challenging that we need to do, that not stereotypes don't necessarily fit. That's the whole point.
Yeah.
They're rigid preconceptions. How about you, Maurice?
I think one that I listed was, I am a serious leader, but I am not unapproachable.
Thank you. And maybe one more?
Then I'll go. I'm German, but I'm not a Nazi.
Thank you. Yeah, those sometimes when we start thinking about what those mean and the impact that they have on us, then you have to start thinking about, like, what's next? How do I show that? Being an ally, how do I demonstrate that so that that stereotype does not belong to me and I'm not buying into that stereotype? So as we move on, just for the sake of time, I want you to consider that, and again, I would ask you to turn off your mics at this point and tell me, how many things do you think the group of people that are in this meeting have in common? Just give me a number. I'll take anything.
15 things in common.
15, okay.
I'd say 100.
Anybody? 100?
Mhm.
Anybody else? Natasha, do you have an idea?
I am actually just listening in tonight.
Okay. Anybody else? Just wondering, how many things do you think we have in common? We've got 100 to 15.
I think
One
it's
more.
bigger. I think it's bigger. I don't know that I have a number, but I think it's bigger than 100. I think just even us all being here means that we have a lot more in common than we think.
Yeah, yeah. So now we're going to.
I would echo that.
Yeah, I do. I agree. But let's see. Let's do an activity that might demonstrate some of that and give us some information that might be helpful. So this, I have to say, this is one of my very favorite activities. When it's done face to face, it's very engaging and very physical. But we've done it with adults and we've done it with kids, and it's all about understanding commonalities and differences and the richness that that provides. We do it usually as, if you can kind of take in, musical chairs, right? So there's one chair missing. So there's always somebody in the middle. Well, we've had to modify this because of, you know who, COVID. And so we made it a little bit different. So this will require you to put your information in the chat. So here's some of the directions that I want you to think about. So we'll play just a few rounds and see how this goes. But the person in the middle, so I'm going to be the first one in the middle. You guys don't have to stress yet, but soon. So be ready. The person in the middle will say, I'm looking for someone like me who. And as you think about that, I want you to think about, like, it can't be something physical. I can't say who is retiring or is aging, or you can't say something that's apparent, physically apparent. You have to say something that they may not know about you. So I'll do one round that's pretty easy, and then I'm going to change it a little bit. And if you identify with that, if you identify with what I say, I want you to type in the chat move. And so move, 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 move. And then Shanna's going to say Maurice was the last person. And if you're the last person, then now you're in the middle and you get the chance to make your own statement. Does that make sense to you all? Is that a good to go? Okay, so this one's an easy one and kind of scary to say out loud. And then I'm going to come back and change the topic just a tad. So I'm looking for someone like me who, despite everything, still likes the Broncos. So type in move if you agree with that. Bless their hearts. And Shanna's keeping track of all of this for me.
The last one is Afton.
Afton? All right. So if we had done that for real, then Afton would be in the middle and would have to say, do you want to give it a try, Afton? Do you have an idea?
Sure.
Okay, you go.
Yeah, I'll give it a shot. I'm looking for someone like me, someone who loves to travel.
Oh, move. I can only say it because I'm not typing. And Shanna, who do we have?
Dr. Regina.
Ah, Regina. So Dr. Regina, we're going to change it a little bit and you have to think a little bit harder, just saying. Okay. So we're going to change it now to about culture. And I want you to think about what culture is. So can you give me some ideas of what you think implies your culture? And say it out loud if you could, not type it in. Say it out loud.
Okay. Wow, it's so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I would say one of the cultures is my hair.
Okay, hair.
Mm-hmm.
What else? Everybody else, what else is culture?
Holidays.
Holidays. What else?
Language.
Language, absolutely. My favorite all time is food.
Yes.
That's culture, right? What else?
Even speech, maybe?
Speech, absolutely.
Clothing.
Music, clothing, absolutely.
Dance.
I love that. Yeah, music. All of those things have implications on culture, right? So here's how we change this up. I'm looking for someone like me, and then you're going to make a cultural statement. So I kind of put Regina in a bad position because she's next, right? And so she's going to be thinking, I'm looking for someone like me who, and she's going to make a cultural statement.
Okay.
And then you're going to type in move.
Okay.
You got it?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, so I'm looking for someone like me who loves sweet potato pie.
I'm moving.
Deborah.
Deborah. All right. You're on. So Deborah comes to the middle and Deborah says, what, Deborah? Unmute yourself. Don't forget that part. I always do.
I know I put mine in before everybody else, but that's okay.
You get to call it. It's yours. Okay.
Okay.
I'm looking for someone.
I'm looking for someone who's just like me. Let's see.
I'm looking for someone like me who.
I'm looking for someone like me who loves to dance.
I'm in. I'm typing move. How about the rest of you?
Horrible dancer, but love to dance.
That's okay.
There we go, Patrice.
Who's our last person?
Patrice. Regina was the last, but she already went. So
Right.
Oh, yeah, she did. And we're moving it along. So Patrice, you go. I'm looking for someone.
I'm looking for someone who loves sports.
Oh, yeah. I'm moving on all of these.
we already had Afton, so Garland.
Garland?
I'm present. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I'm looking for someone like me who does not put raisins in their potato salad.
That would be me. Anybody else?
I've never heard of raisins in potatoes.
I know, I was just thinking the same thing. Like,
You never heard of putting raisins in your potato salad?
No, honey.
Dr. Lewis, we got to expand ourselves a little bit. But yeah, there's an entire culture surrounding it.
You need
but
to
you
make
said
me, you need to make me some.
I don't have that skill, but thank you.
Garland, did you say you do put it in there or you do not put it in there?
I do not.
Okay, good, because I raised my hand on that and I thought maybe I had it wrong. So who's our last person, Shanna?
Okay, Sherelle, you already went?
No, I didn't go.
No, she did not.
Then there you go.
I'm trying to think. I'm really weird. I guess I'm looking for someone like me who loves watching foreign movies.
That's awesome. I don't. How about the rest of you?
Okay, Patrice. We already had her, Regina, and me.
All right, you.
Okay, I'm looking for someone like me who does nothing on Sundays.
And the winner is
Sandy.
Oh man. Okay. Like, oh yay. No, that's my one day off, my day of rest. So I'm looking for someone like me who speaks multiple languages.
I love that. Bonjour, ça va? That's about it. Who else?
That counts.
Did anybody else contribute?
We have Regina and me.
Nice.
I can
Regina,
only
since
count. I can only count in different languages.
that's like me, Mademoiselle. I think that that's probably not it. So why don't you pick somebody who hasn't gone?
Okay,
Regina?
absolutely. Let's go with Michelle.
Hi guys, sorry, I was driving. That's why I couldn't type. I didn't want me doing that. But I've been participating. I just texted Sherelle. So I would say, okay, I'm looking for someone like me who enjoys salsa dancing.
I would type in yes if I knew how to do. I'm an aspirational salsa dancer. And who do we have?
I've learned.
Yeah, I need to learn. How about who's there, Shanna?
So we have Garland, Regina, me.
And who has not gone? I think Maurice and Thayer and Milani.
Michael.
We have not gone.
Okay, go for it. Are you doing this separately or together?
I think separately.
Okay.
I'm looking for someone like me who likes to bike, like up Cheyenne Canyon, who likes to bike on the weekends.
And the winner is?
Yay, Regina.
Only Regina likes to bike with Melanie.
I don't know up that canyon, but I love to bike. And how are you? It's so good to see both of you. Yay!
Okay, then you can bike with Thayer on the easier route. How's that?
Yes. Yes.
So Regina, you get to choose somebody who hasn't gone.
There.
Geez, now I gotta figure out somebody who likes to who's preoccupied with investing on the weekends when the markets are closed.
There you go.
That's cultural? I suppose it could be.
It is. Yeah.
So wait a minute. Can you actually invest when the market is closed? Are you talking Forex or? Because I do some day trading as well. So I'm
Doing
sorry.
homework analysis.
Dogecoin.
I see. Okay. Well,
And did we have anybody reply to that one? That was a tough one.
That's a terrible one.
You want to try overs? You want to do over?
You want to do over?
Somebody who likes to go to art museums.
That's a good cultural one. I'm in.
Oh, lots of people. Hey, I did
Good.
better second time.
There you go.
And who do we have?
The last one was Afton.
And I don't think Afton, Shanna, who have we not had? Who
We have not
heard
had
from?
Michael and Maurice.
Right. So can we choose one of them? Maurice, you're on.
Awesome. I'm looking for somebody like me who likes jazz.
I'm in. Anybody else?
Almost everyone.
Awesome. Who's the end person?
The last one to type was Sherelle, and Michael is still missing. He was the last one to not give his.
Michael, you're on.
Hey, I'm on now.
Yes,
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm
Thank
looking
you.
for someone like me that loves the beach.
Oh, the beach is a cultural thing. You're right. That would not be me. Sand, no, can't do it. Anybody else? And I see Sandy, she's on there.
Sandy
All
was
This is
right.
Michelle. I'm in on that. I'm moving on that. I love the beach.
Okay, nice. Michelle, and is there anybody else we've missed?
I don't think so. I think everyone went.
So I'm going to go because I didn't do a cultural one. So I'm looking for someone like me who was born out of the United States. And who do we have?
We actually have quite a few. We have Sandy, me, and Regina.
Sandy, did you get to go?
He did the salsa dancing.
Oh,
I did the
okay,
language one.
gotcha.
Oh, the language
Gotcha. Okay, the language one. Great. So I'm so glad to hear there's quite a few. I really have to admit, there's a statement to that. I was born out of the United States. I was born in Hawaii, and you're going, oh, but that's in the United States. But I was born before it was a state. How sad is that, right? That's how old I am.
That's awesome.
So it was. But it always cracks me up that when people have these wonderful countries they're born in, and I have a beautiful country or state that I was born in. So kind of a differentiation of how you take that. So now I would really like for you guys to engage in a little bit of conversation, which requires you probably to turn off your mics as we're kind of, let's debrief this a little bit. So my question is, all of this is much more fun when we're face to face, but it's still fun to do it online. How is this game for you?
I thought it was great.
Why?
You got to hear different perspectives, how everybody thinks differently.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
thought
perspective.
I thought what a cool way to connect with people. You don't even know, because when you look at first glance, you might think you don't have things in common, or we continue to focus on the things that are obviously not in common. So we're usually looking at the physical sides of things. So this was great.
Other thoughts?
Garland typed into the chat emphasis on commonalities.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, all of us can do as many differences as is possible too, but I'm guessing maybe we didn't have time for 100 like Regina was projecting, but I know we had 15, right? So as you start thinking about that, what were some things, cultural things that were interesting to you?
Could you ask that question again?
Sure. What were some cultural things that were shared that were interesting to you that you'd like to know more about?
Other countries. Oh, actually what Thayer said, because I thought, I mean, like his first statement, because it kind of stunned everybody. And it's like, well, wait a minute. I need to know more about that.
Well, I didn't say the one I was really thinking, which is I'm going to miss the pandemic because life got simple, not the downside. That one sounded too weird.
You know, that's also a cultural piece, right? That we haven't factored in. I appreciate you saying that because I hadn't really thought about that, but that is something culturally that we've all engaged in some level. So thanks for bringing that up. That's really cool. If you didn't move, if you didn't type in move, what were some thoughts that you had about like, oh, I can't move, but I mean, that's like me in salsa. I would love to learn, but I don't do it. What are you guys' thoughts on that?
I think I have that same thing. Like, I wish I would ride a bike more. I wish I knew a second language. I wish I knew how to salsa dance. So it's just more of those like, man, I need to get into that.
Yeah. I think we wish that we had tasted sweet potato pie, which we never have. So Regina?
Yeah.
Oh, you're missing out.
Listen,
awesome.
send me a text with your number, because I'm getting ready to make one. I've got to make
I will do that.
Well, I also realized most of you have a lot more fun than I do.
We're going to get you out more, dear.
Yeah, apparently.
Fun is relative, right? I mean, you're having fun with your stock market stuff. I wouldn't even know how to tap into that. I don't even know what it is.
You know,
how about you, Maurice? What were your thoughts?
I need to get back to learning a second language and continue to avoid potato salad with raisins in it for sure. So.
Yes, I know. The raisin thing, I love potato salad. I've never even imagined raisins. I didn't know you could do that. But that causes me to think about other things I could do. Was there any judgment in any of this?
The raisins and the potato salad.
That's true. Oh, good. Yeah, you caught me. Yeah, totally
The
judgmental on the
Broncos.
raisin.
Yeah, the Broncos, definitely the Broncos.
They're my
Well, when
heart.
somebody said like, they like to ride bikes outside, I was like, oh no, I don't go outside.
Yeah, there. So, but it was not divisive judgment, right? It was a way to still engage and think about, as somebody said, think about it differently. That I've never thought about raisins, but maybe I could. So now it opens up that door of opportunity to look at things a little bit differently. What was it like to hear about other people in this group? What do you think?
I think it was neat to just kind of hear and see what people's interests were, or maybe were not. So just getting to know people.
Yeah. And how many times do we take that opportunity? I was on an airplane this morning flying back from my granddaughter's graduation, who, by the way, is a master in math. So unlike my stereotype threat. And I started engaging with people that I typically wouldn't have engaged with, because I was kind of had my headphones on and stuff. And I'm like, this is not okay. We need to engage. And I can't engage if I don't ask. And I had a great conversation with a gentleman, so actually 2 or 3. So that's part of this process. Why do you think we did this?
I think it's a good way to get in a understand where our mind frame might have been coming into the activity, and kind of looking at the ladder of like where the mindset and mind shift needs to be in order to understand that there could be infinite commonalities, you know, amongst this group, and we can take that kind of mindset and mind shift into, you know, our everyday kind of mission field, so to speak, and understand that there could be, you know, infinite commonalities amongst other groups that we walk into and other rooms that we are in. So.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So if I may expound on that a little bit, sounds like perhaps let me know if I'm wrong, Dr. Williams, but it sounds like first it takes the introspection to be uncomfortable with you being uncomfortable, and embracing what that uncomfort or that discomfort is, in order to reach beyond that and embrace other people. And then in that you find the commonalities.
Perfect.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've had some, and I've done this, I can't even tell you, probably maybe close to 1,000 times over the years, only 3 times online. So thank you for being my 3rd time online. But I will tell you that you're right in that uncomfortableness. And this is one of the first activities we do when we do trainings. And it's pretty simple, right? And yet it opens up doors. And we've had people say really intense emotional things when they're talking about culture, that, and later on, as we're debriefing this, they're like, I never thought I would say that out loud. And yet they did in a very short amount of time, because everybody engaged, everybody was part of it, everybody was vulnerable and willing to participate. That makes all the difference. And it is what, when you look at me, the stereotypes that you make, now you know more about me because of anything I've shared in the middle of that circle, if that makes sense. Thanks for sharing that, though. That's perfect.
Dr. Williams, you also noted that we were to talk about things that were not, that we couldn't see.
Right.
And that made a huge difference, because sometimes that gets in the way of us being authentic and getting to know people, because we're looking at the things that we consider that define them. And yet there are so many other things that are not seen that we miss because we've already put them in a box.
Exactly. And that goes back to that very first picture of me and being, you know, as you see me, is that really who I am? And you just heard several things about me that you wouldn't have known, and you didn't have a chance to ask, but you wouldn't have known just by looking at me. So you're so right. That's about that stereotype and that first impression and the impact that makes, and how it can change when we start asking those questions. And how many of us ever bother to ask those questions? That's the power of what we can do to change stereotypes and stereotype threat. And so my last question to you all before we close out is just, what's your takeaways from this? These were two pretty simple, I am, but I am not, and someone like me. What's your takeaway from these?
I want to just say that I think this is a fantastic way to have a conversation with younger people. I mean, anybody, but I just think that this is a way to really understand the beginnings of stereotyping. And when you say, but I am not, then what is the impact of that? And that's how you can help them to understand stereotype threat and how that can really hurt someone. So I think it really opens up great discussions. Well done.
Thank you. Anybody else? Thoughts? Last thoughts?
No, I agree, and I agree with Dr. Lewis, who just said the simplicity in which this exercise is goes beyond just you know, what you can offer to young people. I had a different degree of expectation when I initially sat down, and I apologize for being tardy, but thank you for this. I mean, the simplicity of what you described and what you explained is something I'm definitely going to take back to the office with me. So thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Williams, I have a question. I teach some young people who work for me about the importance of first impression, and you have some control over that. What's the relation between first impressions and stereotypes?
Well, I'm going to give it back to you guys. And you had my picture, right? That's first impression. That's how I presented in that particular picture. What do you think the stereotype, how do stereotypes fit into that? Because stereotypes are those preconceived notions. Those are
professional photo shoot, nice backlighting. My wife's a photographer. You know, so I say this person wants us to see her as a professional person, even if I didn't know who she was and what she did.
Of course, that's a first impression. So what do you do with it after that?
Well, if you have more than 30 seconds, you ask, what do you do?
Yeah, you start digging, right? You start asking, like, do you speak another language? What's your favorite sport? Do you play sports? Do you like bike ride? I mean, all those things we just shared is a perfect example of taking it to the next level past the professional lighting and the staged presentation. I mean, I can do stage presentation, but how real do you want me to be? That's the questions that you ask me that make me feel comfortable enough and vulnerable enough to be able to share with you. That's where it changes. That's when you shift the mindset. So you may have had a stereotype of who I looked like in my picture, even though that certainly wasn't professional. Now, after all that you've heard of all the things we've shared, is there a different presence? Is there a different perception of not me, just me, but everybody in this room who just shared? Is there a difference? Does that make sense? Or answer your question?
Yes, I guess what I'm thinking of is first impression, you have some control over that, but stereotypes in a lot of cases you don't. It is what.
But you do have control over whether you accept that stereotype. And that's why we do that. I mean, people stereotype me, have all my life stereotyped me as a dumb blonde. But guess what? And so then but I am not. And that's how we start learning to present ourselves in a way that demonstrates that you've stereotyped me here, but I don't belong. That's not my box. I have a much bigger presence than that. And that's how, I mean, when you're interviewing somebody or when you have that first impression, you start thinking about, what else do I need to know? What's beyond this presence that this person just showed me? I've got to find more.
Dr. Williams, there are times that people are stereotyped and they never even get the opportunity because the other person has actually stopped them. So is there anything to be said about kind of anticipating some of the stereotypes and maybe mitigating some of that? Like, is there something that you could do on any of it, on something?
On each individual person. And that's exactly why we did I am, but I am not. So if, and I know full well, and you guys just, I hope that you wrote down 3 ways you've been stereotyped, because everybody in this room has been stereotyped in at least 3 ways, probably many more. But you've got to start thinking about, and that's the very essence of that statement, but I am not this. So how do you present in a way that helps them understand you are a challenge to that stereotype? And I think you start, I know for me in coaching people and teaching graduates and undergraduates, just teaching them ways to present that they are not given their stereotype. So they've got to start learning steps and things that they say. I am, you know, I may be perceived this way, but here's what I really am. If I went into an interview and I said to somebody, here's a perception that people have of me, but here's who I really am, that would be a powerful statement and pretty insightful. And that's telling them, I've thought about this and I already know how to challenge this. And I know what my strengths are. As somebody that's being potentially an employee, I'd want to know that. I'd want to know that I'm challenging what you just perceived me as, possibly. That's an assumption too, right? But possibly perceived me as. And if I'm strong enough to come in and make that statement, I think that that's, and that's where we start with this statement, just challenging those thoughts, challenging that stereotypic thinking. Does that clarify, Regina?
Yes, it did. Thank you so much. I was looking in the chat at what Afton said as well.
And that was, I'm still on present mode. I'm going to stop sharing.
Oh, okay.
Afton said, in addition to highlighting commonalities, this emphasizes the importance of having a conversation. We make so many judgments without ever entering into a dialogue, and therefore we miss out on so many people and experiences.
Absolutely.
May I offer something, Doctor?
Please.
In relation to the answering the question that Dr. Lewis asked, I would say taking a certain belief with you going into numerous spaces. I grew up in Detroit, Michigan, African-American young man, many preconceived notions. Not going to have the camera on today because I don't want to break your camera, but I find that your belief system that you take in with you, it brings a inner energy of acceptance of the fact that you're entering various environments that may or may not necessarily be the most friendly. However, with the belief system that I have within myself and the confidence that I have within myself, it then starts to exude a different kind of energy and confidence that most other people are not going to quite have, that actually fit the fingerprint of your own persona as well. So there's a back strength, and then there's there's a foundational strength, and then there is the character that you take with you. And I find oftentimes, even without being verbal, that energy kind of transcends me.
Perfectly said.
If it
Yeah.
may.
And I totally agree with what you're saying. And I'm going back as you say that and thinking that's what we want to teach younger people, right? How to present themselves with the energy that they have inside, not the preconceived notions that people have about them on the outside. You are so right. And it's a presence, right?
I think it would be going with persistence too. So I work with teens who are transitioning, youth with disabilities who are transitioning into like the adult life. And so part of that is them finding employment. And so we teach self-advocacy, but you know, when we talk about stereotypes, like even if they come in with this certain persona and energy, people can still see it as a different way, or say, well, they're doing that because of this, and that's because of this. So it still like reinforces their stereotype. So it's like, you still have to find that resilience or persistence to keep going even after you fail or you get shut down. And I think that's where the hard part comes in. Like, how much do you continue on, and you know, how much does that chip away from your energy until you know you make it to where you want to be.
And my big belief is teaching people about self-talk. And that's why we did the activities that we did, that if they learn that positive self-talk will be reflective of how they present themselves, as opposed to those silly stereotypes that we get smacked with every day. That's where the power comes from. And it's internalized power, but it's not just, we're not born with that. We have to be taught that. So that's that resiliency. And you're right, persistence. That's so key to all of that. Absolutely. I know we're running out of time, and I've overstepped my time limit boundaries, but thank you guys for participating with me. I so enjoyed talking with you, and thank you for being part of this.